I pulled into the Kroger parking lot on Morse Road at 7 in the morning because Margaret Tibbs, my next-door neighbor from before I moved to the townhouse, had called me the night before and said she thought she saw my son's truck parked in the far corner of the lot. She said she'd driven past twice, and the second time she saw a little head pop up in the back window. I didn't sleep after that call. I just lay there staring at the ceiling until it was light enough to leave. I almost missed it. The truck was tucked into the far corner, half hidden like it didn't want to be found, and when I knocked, my granddaughter Emma's face appeared through the blanket, taped over the window, followed by Lily's, both blinking at me like I'd stepped out of a dream. Then Nathan opened the door, and the sight of him hit harder than anything else, thinner, hollowed out, like life had been draining out of him one quiet day at a time. When he said "Dad" and broke down, I knew something had gone very, very wrong. 19 days, he told me. 19 days living out of that truck with his daughters. I took them to breakfast, watched those girls eat like they hadn't seen a real meal in days, and waited until Nathan was ready to speak. When he did, the story didn't unfold like a mistake or a bad stretch of luck. It unfolded like something planned. His marriage to Diane hadn't just fallen apart. It had been dismantled piece by piece. Her family, especially her father, Gary Mercer, had decided long ago Nathan wasn't good enough. And instead of confronting that truth honestly, they built a lie, one careful step at a time. They painted him as unstable, a gambler, a man losing control. They spread it quietly, strategically until it sounded believable. Then they used it. A protective order forced him out of his own home with barely 2 hours' notice. Custody was stripped down to supervised visits. Accounts frozen. Reputation poisoned. And all the while, Diane was involved with another man, the kind her father had always wanted for her. Nathan kept showing up for his daughters, sitting in those supervised rooms, making bracelets and drawing horses, never speaking badly about their mother. But even that was taken from him when visits started getting cancelled again and again. Money ran out. Options disappeared. And when Diane left the girls with her mother one weekend, asking nothing and explaining less, Nathan made the one choice that broke the rules but protected his children. He took them. And for 19 days, instead of asking for help, he hid. Not because he didn't trust me, but because he thought he had failed. That was the moment everything changed for me, because I knew right then, standing in that parking lot, this wasn't over. Not even close. I brought them home, got them clean, fed, and rested, and the next morning, I started doing what I've done my entire life when something matters. I got to work. The first call I made was to Carol Whitfield, a family attorney who didn't waste time with noise or emotion. When we sat in her office, she didn't react, didn't interrupt, just listened like she was assembling something in her mind piece by piece. And when Nathan finished, she didn't focus on his mistake. She focused on the foundation of everything Diane had done. Because if that foundation was built on lies, then everything built on top of it could collapse. What followed wasn't quick, but it was precise. Financial records, account histories, transfers, every detail was pulled apart, and what came out wasn't suspicion anymore. It was proof. The money Diane claimed Nathan had gambled away, it had been quietly moved into accounts connected to her own family. A second account, hidden for over a year, had been draining funds in carefully timed transfers. Then came the bigger discovery, a home equity loan taken out using Nathan's name, with a forged signature. That wasn't a marital dispute anymore. That was fraud. At the same time, Carol's investigator uncovered the full timeline of Diane's affair, stretching back well over a year, overlapping perfectly with the period she had been building the narrative against Nathan. It wasn't coincidence. It was coordination. And then came the piece that made everything shift. Barbara, Diane's mother, confirmed in writing that she had asked Nathan to take the girls that night. That single statement turned his violation into something far more defensible. When we walked into court for the emergency hearing, I could see Gary Mercer sitting there, calm, confident, like a man who believed the outcome was already decided. But Carol didn't argue. She presented. Document after document, fact after fact, each one tightening the story until there was no room left for interpretation. The judge didn't need drama. She needed clarity. And by the time Carol was done, that clarity was undeniable. Nathan was granted temporary custody. The financial records were locked down, and the forged documents were referred for criminal review. I watched Gary Mercer's expression shift for the first time. Not panic, not fear, but something close to realization. Because for the first time, the narrative he had built was no longer under his control. But that was only the beginning, because what we uncovered next would prove this wasn't just manipulation. It was a full-scale operation, designed to destroy a man and replace him. The full hearing didn't feel like a battle. It felt like an exposure. Over 2 days, everything Diane and her family had constructed started falling apart under scrutiny. Experts testified, records were examined, timelines aligned in ways that couldn't be explained away. The forged signature wasn't questioned, it was proven. The financial transfers weren't suspicious, they were traced. Even the witnesses brought in to support. Diane's claims couldn't hold their stories together when faced with real evidence. One by one, the pieces collapsed, until what remained wasn't a complicated divorce, it was a coordinated scheme. Gary Mercer hadn't just supported it, he had helped design it. His son had helped move the money. Their attorney had been involved from the early stages, and Diane had carried it out step by step. When the ruling finally came, it didn't need to be dramatic. It just needed to be final. Nathan was granted primary custody of his daughters. Diane was limited to supervised visits, the same kind Nathan had once sat through alone. Financial restitution was ordered, covering every dollar taken and more. And while the legal consequences for the others unfolded slowly in the background, the outcome that mattered most had already been decided. I moved them into a proper house not long after, a place with a yard and a tree the girls could climb. Life didn't snap back overnight, but it started moving forward again in small, steady ways. Nathan went back to work. The girls went back to being kids. And the silence that had once filled that truck in a parking lot was replaced with something else, routine laughter. Normal life rebuilding itself piece by piece. Months later, Emma asked me if I had been scared the day I found them. I thought about it, and the truth surprised even me. I hadn't been scared. I had been angry. Not the kind of anger that burns out quickly, but the kind that stays steady until something is made right. And that's the part people don't talk about enough. Sometimes what looks like failure is just someone being pushed into a corner by people who planned it that way. Nathan thought he had lost everything, but he hadn't, because he still showed up. Every visit, every moment, every chance he had, he showed up. And in the end, that mattered more than anything they tried to take from him. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Family isn't about never falling. It's about not letting someone fall alone. I found my son in a parking lot in February. I brought him home, and together we took everything back.